My husband and I haven't had sex for 2 years. But the condoms at home have been steadily decreasing. I questioned him, and he lazily replied without even looking up, I use them as balloons to play with. Then I'll play along too. So I poked the rest with a needle all over. I never doubted my husband until the day I glued on a whole bunch of false eyelashes. We took the kids to Grandpa and Grandma's house. There was a strange smell in the front passenger seat. Why does the front passenger seat smell weird? Both familiar and strange. I fastened my seatbelt while muttering to myself. I looked back at my son, who was sleeping soundly in his safety seat. A warm feeling surged in my heart. You're really too fussy, my husband said coldly, and the words stuck in my throat. I stared at him blankly for a long time. He didn't glance at me once, his expression unchanged. What stuck to your butt? My mother-in-law leaned close to me and took a small object off my pants. You're a mother and still messing with these things? How beautiful do you think you are? Do you think it's easy for my son to make money? I looked closely and saw it was a cluster of false eyelashes. A surge of anger raced through my heart, and I instantly understood everything. Take it easy with the showing off. My mother-in-law threw out a remark and left me alone in the kitchen to cook. Being a full-time mom is not easy. After returning home, I took out the small box that stored condoms from the bottom drawer of the bedside cabinet. The drawer was covered in dust. I take care of the child alone. When it comes to cleaning, my heart is willing, but my strength is insufficient. And at this moment, I realized for the first time, why does my husband never reach out to help? I opened the small box, no need to count. There used to be 20 condoms in here, now only 8 remain. In 1 year, 12 disappeared. Why are there so many fewer condoms at home? I stood at the bedside, looking at my husband sprawled on the bed playing on his phone, questioning him. He didn't even bother to lift his head, just raised an eyebrow to brush me off. I used it as a balloon to play with. Hearing this, my whole body trembled. This was a declaration of sovereignty. He was not afraid of me. The child was born, and the job was lost. Someone who stretches out a hand to ask for money to live, what right do I have to talk about equality with him? Our family needs money these days, so from now on, I'll give you $5,000 for household expenses. He got up and went to the bathroom, clutching his phone tightly in his hand. How is $5,000 enough? I've never heard of anyone raising such a small child costing $10,000. $5,000 is already good. The sound of slippers clicking gradually faded away in the bathroom. Once the bathroom door closed, it felt as if we were worlds apart. I instinctively turned my head to stare at the home security camera, capturing the image of my own desolation. I thought, this is probably like boiling a frog in warm water, but the frog shouldn't be me. I took out a sewing needle from the drawer, the smallest size. I took out the box and carefully pricked them one by one. My husband was right, it is quite fun. Through a layer of plastic and then through a soft gel. That feeling is like eating a salted egg yolk pastry, crispy on the outside, soft and fluffy on the inside. I have had a premarital checkup. I am a woman who finds it very difficult to conceive. The doctor said that given my physical condition, having a child is truly a fantasy. I got pregnant in the very first month of trying to conceive. From that moment on, I was certain in my heart. My husband is strong and healthy. Thinking of this made me even happier. So I added a few stitches to each condom. This is a great gift. Everyone enjoy it slowly. The next day, sure enough, 2 condoms were missing from the house again. Although I was mentally prepared, it was still hard to accept when it actually happened. It felt as if something was choking my throat and a suffocating sensation overwhelmed me. I picked up the child, hailed a car, and went back to my mother. The moment the door was pushed open, my mother and my brother, who was a graduate student home for the summer, both looked at me in surprise. Mom was panting and muttering in a trembling voice. The bad luck star has returned. I gave a bitter smile. My younger brother stepped forward and took the child in his arms. I gently held my 70-year-old mother in my arms. The unlucky star has finally returned. In our family, girls are valued more than boys. Mom had a hard time getting pregnant and only conceived me at the age of 37. At 45, Mom got pregnant with my younger brother again. Mom always believed that I was the one who brought my brother into the family. So, from childhood to now, both Mom and Dad have always called me a jinx. Little jinx, wouldn't it be better to just raise you? We give you everything, and yet you bring us another brother. Our family of 4 was blissfully happy, and I was the apple of everyone's eye. Perhaps it was because of the smooth and happy life that I had no ability to argue. Dad passed away early, and Mom was not very supportive of my marriage. She said, "Derek's eyes and mouth don't say the same thing." "What do you mean?" I asked my mother curiously. "He is disguising himself." People like that, once their inside matches their outside, are rotten to the core. I recalled my husband's recent behavior and fully understood what my mother had said back then. Sigh. I said nothing, but my mother saw through everything. "Sister, why did you come back alone?" The family's concern tightened the strings of my heart until I could no longer hold on. I covered my face and wept on the sofa, my shoulders trembling. Mom and son went to bed. I gently drew the curtains, leaving only a bit of sunlight to keep them company. "Sis, show me what's going on." My younger brother sat in front of the computer, reaching out his hand. I rewound the surveillance footage to that day. After seeing everything, my younger brother wasn't very angry. He smiled. Mysteriously, he said to me, "Sis, I think you might be about to get rich." "What?" "You must be drunk, silly boy." I patted my brother's head. "Oh, sis, you really have become a fool as a full-time mom." I tilted my head. "If you post these videos on foreign websites, they will go viral." I sighed out of boredom. "It's useless. You have to know, the foreign websites charge for viewing. They charge per view." I suddenly got energized. "I'll blur Derek's face, then turn the account into a series of true stories about wives seeking revenge. It will definitely go viral." Do foreigners really like to watch this kind of thing? I still have some doubts. The world is never short of curious folks. Even kittens and puppies love to watch the commotion. Our first one is free. This conversation here, look, the title is, "Husband Cheats, Yet Withholds Wife's Living Expenses." My younger brother stared intently at the computer, typing away rapidly on the keyboard. I was cheated on, my living expenses were withheld, yet he was overjoyed. I want to smash him with a hammer. Is there a second one? I'll upload it today. If it really goes viral, we need to strike while the iron is hot. Whirling a strand of hair in my hand, I fell into thought. Article 2? We hardly speak at home anymore. I don't have access to the surveillance at my mother-in-law's house. Huh? I poked holes in all the condoms at home, this. Wow! Sis, you're ruthless. Ha ha. So I also sent this surveillance video to my younger brother. After watching it, my brother kept laughing foolishly. This one is called, "Giving My Husband a Few More Kids." / ha 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 ha, / my brother and I burst out laughing together. Before I left that day, Mom said, / if you have any difficulties, come to Mom, / My brother advised me, / remember, guide him to do something a bit excessive, / I nodded. I kept thinking about what to do next all the way. Then why not just keep talking nonsense with him about cheating, or just be straightforward? Maybe if we fight, the audience will like watching it even more. I came home and saw my husband grooming himself in front of the mirror. He glanced at me. "Where did you go?" "To my mom's place." "Came back empty-handed? Didn't your mom say to bring us something?" "Every time we go to your house, we can't take anything back, and on top of that, we have to buy things for them." I stood there holding the child, arguing with him. He stopped what he was doing, turned his face, and looked at me with contempt. "What right do you have to compare yourself to me? I earn $30,000 a month, and you have nothing." I used to have a job too, but for the sake of my family and children, I chose to be a full-time mom. No one forced you to do this. It was your own choice. I'm not free labor, and the child isn't mine alone. Mothers have to give more. After all, you're a woman. I thought to myself, this sentence is enough to support an entire video episode. Just like that, we argued back and forth for a long time. He threw out a sentence, "Fine, since you've been so wronged living with me, from now on, earn your own living." Then he slammed the door and left. My chest heaved with anger. Tears fell down in a pattering stream. The son's face was wet with tears as he cried loudly. I think about the money for the child's milk powder, diapers, picture books, clothes. No, it's not just these. There's also the money for my makeup, new clothes, and bags. I wiped away my tears, fed the baby, and soothed him to sleep. Then I turned on the living room surveillance footage. Very wonderful. My younger brother replied to me after receiving the video. I smiled and cleared all the chat records with one click. My husband didn't come home all night. Late at night, I performed the lonely, bitter, and arduous role of a full-time mother in my bedroom. Exhausted, after putting the child to sleep, I sit alone at the bedside, feeling melancholy and despondent. I just sat there glaringly under surveillance for a long time. At that time, I seemed like a clever fool. To keep myself seated, I recalled the past with my husband. We were college classmates, fell in love, got married, and quickly planned for a baby. Their family favored sons over daughters and insisted on continuing the family line. When they found out I was carrying a boy, my parents-in-law rushed from the town to take care of me. Actually, I don't need any special care. Being pregnant is not the same as being sick. But my husband rented a house for my parents 8 kilometers away. I once sank into this illusion of happiness. After the child was born, everyone advised me to be a full-time mom. My husband said, "Once you're past the confinement period, and it's not so hard, I'll hand over my paycheck." My mother-in-law said, "I'll take care of you, so your dad can go out and find a job to earn money for you to spend." But all of this was shattered after my confinement period ended. My husband and I want the salary card. He said, "Forget it. Pregnancy makes you stupid for 3 years. Can you really manage money?" My mother-in-law said, "I'm really old. I can't carry the child anymore. I'll help take care of the child when they can walk." What about the father-in-law who claimed he would go out to work and earn money? Obsessed with fishing, he is unseen all day long. Not only do they refuse to lend me a hand, but they also insist on staying in City B. My mother-in-law says she was always meant to be a city lady, having worked hard to raise my husband, and now she wants to fully enjoy urban life. She wants to drink coffee and wear designer clothes. The father-in-law wants to buy a car and go fishing in the suburbs. He wants to buy the best fishing rod because he can't afford to lose face among his fishing buddies. Only I am on the decline. Everyone else is fully enjoying life. Who can escape the heavens? Even if the heavens spare you, they will not spare me. My younger brother called me early in the morning to share the good news. "Sis, the first video went viral." "Really?" I stood up excitedly, the cloth in my hand dropping to my feet. Mom. My son saw this amusing scene and waddled over. The good news is, right after my first video went viral, I immediately posted a second one. So, I clenched my fists, sweat trickling down my palms. The bad news is, the second one was just SOSO. Oh! I sighed, feeling empty inside, as if I had fallen from a dream into an abyss. As soon as you pay, everyone just disappears. It's been 7 hours so far, and we've still made some gains. That's good. I no longer wanted to continue this topic, just wanting to quietly think about my future path. 600, hey, sis, aren't you happy? My younger brother clearly sensed my mood. Ethan, thank you. I felt weak all over and slowly sat down on the sofa. Sis, listen to me, $600. What? I jumped up as if I had been injected with adrenaline. Dollars. Sis, how much is $600? He teased me on purpose. It's almost enough to buy your life. Just over 4,000 to buy my life? You really are naive. I hadn't even had time to retort when the doorbell rang. Wait for me a moment. Someone has come to the house. I threw my phone onto the sofa and went to answer the door. Who is it? I called out from inside. Are you dead? I've been calling for ages and couldn't get through. Grandma shouted from outside the door. Sigh. Why is it them? Whenever I think of these two old people now, I feel a physical sense of disgust. I opened the door, and my mother-in-law was very agitated, wildly berating me while pointing her finger. Look at yourself. How many calls have you made? What shameful things are you doing at home? She cursed as she walked in. Mom, please change into another pair of slippers. The habits in my mother-in-law's family are very bad. The dirtiness is the culprit. Change what shoes? Why are you so high and mighty, needing to change shoes at home? My mother-in-law pushed me away. Exactly, there are really too many issues. My father-in-law reeked of stale smoke all over. I sneaked a glance at the door. On the floor lay the cigarette, but he had just stubbed out. Where's Derek? Grandma called out. He hasn't come back all night. I don't know where he went. I closed the door helplessly. Not back all night? Did you two fight again? Unbelievable, you actually drove my son away? My mother-in-law hurried over in 3 quick steps, turning to face me directly. Tell me, did you do something shameful that made him run away in anger? Before my mother-in-law finished speaking, my father-in-law started sneaking around the house, searching everywhere. As if I were hiding someone in the house. Women like you who read too many books are the most scheming. You're not good for anything. My mother-in-law curled her lips and, at the same time, gave me an enormous eye roll. She often said, I was just born too early, otherwise I wouldn't just be a college graduate, I would have been a professor long ago. In fact, her intelligence is so low that she can't even tell whether the spiral on a light bulb twists left or right. If you don't believe me, you can check the home surveillance. I angrily picked up the child. My mother-in-law's crazed appearance often scared my son. What? You have surveillance at home too? My mother-in-law glared at me like a ghost, just risen from a coffin. Didn't you install it as well? We are the elders. If something happens at home, Derek will know what's going on. My father-in-law stretched his neck stiffly, looking just like the big rooster they keep at home. No way. Why are you installing surveillance cameras? They waste electricity. Take them down. Grandma grew more and more agitated as she spoke. Take down the cameras? If you want to take down my cameras now, it's like asking for my life. I held the child and blocked them. No way. How much electricity can the cameras possibly use? No matter how much electricity is used, it's my son who pays for it. You don't earn money, old man. Tear it down for me. Under the command of his mother-in-law, the father-in-law charged forward like he was on a stimulant to tear down the surveillance camera. I pushed the mother-in-law aside, trying to grab hold of the father-in-law. Seeing that she wasn't as strong as me, the mother-in-law held back her anger, but was furious, stomping madly. Oh my God, someone is killing. Old man, come quickly and save my life, someone is killing. As soon as the father-in-law heard her braying like a donkey, he got fired up. He kicked me hard. I shielded the child but couldn't protect myself. I held the child with one arm and wrapped the other around his head, then fell straight to the ground. The tailbone ached piercingly. My father-in-law actually rode right on top of me. He stared at my face, grinning lecherously. Old woman, you go dismantle the surveillance. I'll keep an eye on this bitch. All right. Grandma responded excitedly, grabbed a chair nearby, stepped on it, and violently tore down the surveillance camera. Old lady, go check if there's any left in the bedroom. Keep dismantling. All right. They took down all the surveillance cameras in the house. Only then did my father-in-law get off me satisfied. The fury in my chest completely overshadowed the pain in my body. Shame burned fiercely in my stomach. My mother-in-law threw the dismantled surveillance device at my feet. She revealed a victorious smile. This household, I'm the one who calls the shots. She brushed the dust off her hands. But I didn't come to see you today for that. I held my son, who was crying from fear, and struggled to stand up from the floor. "Stop crying," my father-in-law shouted angrily, scaring my son into instantly stopping his cries. I really wanted to kick those two old bastards to death. But I couldn't. I hope my younger brother is a bit smarter. I glanced at the sofa. With my mother-in-law backed by my father-in-law, she was even more proud. "The child can walk now. I think it's easier to take care of him. My body can handle it." She actually shook her head and laughed. I instinctively hugged my son tightly, turning my body sideways and staring at her intently. Seeing my defensive look, my mother-in-law snorted disdainfully. "I'm doing this for your own good. From today on, I'll take care of my eldest grandson." The mother-in-law gave the father-in-law a look, and he reached out his hands to me. "Tomorrow, you go out and find a job. From now on, give me 8,000 yuan a month for the nanny fee." "No way. You can touch me, but if you touch my son, I'll fight you all. I can take care of the child myself, and I don't need any nanny. Are you forcing us to take action and snatch it?" Grandma showed that demonic expression again. I held the child and ran towards the door. Grandpa took a swift step forward and grabbed my collar. His filthy fingers touched my neck. My stomach churned violently, and I suddenly felt dizzy and vomited. At that moment, they stepped forward and took the son away. I was gasping for breath, weakly reaching out with one hand. "Son, give me back my son." My mother-in-law stood at the door shouting at me, 8,000. Remember, 8,000. Not a penny less, or else you can forget about ever seeing your son again. They slammed the door shut heavily, and my son and I were worlds apart. "So quiet. Sis. Sis." From the phone on the sofa came my brother's faint call. I have held the phone. "Sis?" "Ethan, don't tell me you recorded the whole thing." The new video consists of 2 parts. The first half shows footage of the parents-in-law visiting, and the second half is the audio recorded after the surveillance was removed. The video exploded in popularity on the external internet. Ethan said he spent the whole night listening to the prompt tone. The back end was flooded with incoming payments. I am worried about my son with mixed feelings of joy and anxiety. My parents-in-law truly like him because he is a boy. But can my parents-in-law take good care of him? My heart is restless, and I have sleepless nights. I called my husband, but I couldn't get through. I guess I've probably been blocked. Damn bastard. Don't worry, they'll definitely feed Daniel well and take good care of him. He's their family's lifeline. My younger brother comforted me. I lowered my head and stared at my own hands. "Sis, don't cry, I'm here." I calmly raised my head. "I'm not crying." The younger brother was somewhat surprised. "Ethan, I was just thinking." "Thinking about what?" "First, why are they so eager to get money from me like this?" My younger brother heard what I said, reached out his hand, and rubbed his chin. "Second, how can we bring Daniel back?" "Third, once I've earned enough money, I want to divorce him." My younger brother was as happy as if he had eaten honey. "Really? I've long disliked Derek." "Sis, if you divorce him, I'll support you both." At that moment, my husband's call came through. "Are you dead? Hurry to the People's Hospital. Remember." Before leaving, I reminded my younger brother. "Record the whole thing." My brother understood me perfectly. Daniel was hit on the head by his grandfather, and his face was covered in blood. At the emergency room entrance, Derek and those 2 old men were at a loss, trying to calm down Daniel, who was writhing and crying uncontrollably. "Mom, Mom, Mom." The son's cries were especially piercing in the noisy environment. I stepped forward and hugged Daniel tightly. Took him into the emergency room. Daniel was very well behaved in my arms, such a little treasure, anesthetized like that, with 7 stitches on his forehead. I sang nursery rhymes to Daniel in the hospital room. As soon as my parents-in-law stepped into the room, Daniel's eyes widened in terror, and he kept shouting, "No, no, Daniel doesn't want to." Then he turned around and tightly hugged my neck. "Mom, I want Mom. Daniel wants Mom." "What kind of child? Don't want grandma? Don't be ridiculous." The grandmother stomped her foot with a fierce look on her face. My younger brother beside me waved his phone back and forth like a rattle recording. What are you recording? No recording allowed. Grandfather rushed forward in a single step, trying to snatch the phone from my brother. My brother held up one finger. Hey, old man, I'm 186 centimeters tall, weigh 100.5 kilograms, and I'm 25 years old. Do you really want to compare yourself with me? The eunuch was so frightened that he stopped in his tracks and kept retreating. The defeated in-laws could only stand sneakily by the side. Not leaving yet? Waiting for the new year? The urban woman and the fishing expert slunk away in shame. Ethan asked me, how could Derek just leave without even taking care of his own son? Guess what? I was wearing a condom. Let's censor today's content properly and upload it directly to domestic video sites, I said to Ethan. Sis, are you going big this time? He seemed very excited. A frog boiled in warm water, no one can save me, only myself. The video title is explosive, of course, there are some fabricated elements in it. After all, I need to make money. A full-time mom was cut off financially by her husband. Her mother-in-law complained that the surveillance cameras used too much electricity and unplugged all the cameras, causing the child to fall and badly injure their forehead. Ethan made the first part of the video from the surveillance footage of my parents-in-law coming over and causing a commotion, and the second part from the video of me taking my son to the hospital for stitches. After posting it online, it went viral overnight. It attracted the attention of many full-time mothers and single mothers who could deeply relate. Even many fathers sent warm words of comfort. I recorded a video overnight in which I described my unfortunate experiences. My husband inexplicably cut off the financial support for the two of us, mother and daughter. My parents-in-law came over causing all sorts of trouble and physically assaulted me. After being beaten, I was so hungry that I went to the kitchen and cooked myself a bowl of instant noodles. I thought my son was sleeping. Usually, when I eat, I turn on the monitor to watch my son. But that day, I had no monitor to watch. And during those 5 minutes, my son climbed down from the bed and looked for me everywhere, accidentally bumping into the edge of the wardrobe. Later, my in-laws came and took the child away. They threatened me, saying that if I didn't give them 8,000 yuan every month, I would never see my child again. I want to give these women a platform to speak out. I want the world to see them. So, my new media interview account, Lonely Women, was launched. Many women and mothers who are experiencing hardships in life are willing to be interviewed. The speed at which the internet spreads information and generates revenue did not surprise me much. Naturally, the in-laws and Derek also saw all of this. That day, they turned the door lock and came in together without even saying a word. I haven't seen Derek for months. He looks much more worn out. Gone is the former vigor. The suit has been replaced by a simple t-shirt. His stubble has grown quite a bit as well. Bitch! Who told you to put our video online? The mother-in-law snarled and rushed over. I took 2 steps back and scooped up the child. The camera is back in place, I said warily. My brother is watching all the time. Mother-in-law immediately stopped in her tracks. She turned her head to look at Derek. Son, look at this bitch. Derek pointed to the sofa. Let's sit down and talk. Dad, Mom, everyone sit down. I kept my distance from them, watching these 3 with ill intentions. My heart started pounding. Let's get a divorce. Derek threw down a divorce agreement. Great. I looked into his eyes and answered him expressionlessly. He smiled. Looks like you planned to leave me a long time ago. I shrugged. Shouldn't I? But before signing the agreement, you have to pay compensation first. He leaned back. I suddenly had a bad feeling. Sure enough, he threw me a photo. It was a screenshot from the video we posted on a foreign website. In the photo, his face was clearly visible, shining brightly. Infringement of portrait rights. He laughed proudly. I was sweating nervously. Portrait rights are not a criminal case, Derek, you're overthinking it. You don't want to leave a criminal record for yourself, do you? What good would that do for your son in the future? I stood up suddenly. Daniel is your son too. He smiled even more brightly. Oh, I get it. He is going to have another son. Thanks to me. Honey, don't forget, we are not divorced yet. He also stood up. Half of the money you earned from your domestic account belongs to me. Not showing up for months, it turns out he was just fattening me up like a pig. Truly talents of the internet, they really have the patience. It seems they had everything planned out the very night the video went viral. Derek, we are actually so alike. Just like the dark side of the moon, but you always want to shine brightly. Yet, I silently avoid the sun. People who love to gamble should never come together. But at that time, we were too young to realize the problem. Good meetings don't guarantee good partings. Smart people aren't meant to grow old together. Serves you right for showing off. My mother-in-law stood up, pointing at me and laughing wildly. Got your comeuppance, huh? You deserve it. Bitch. My father-in-law sneered lecherously. I'll give you a few days to think it over. Derek stood up and walked out. All of this, you have to give me half. Ethan didn't dare look me in the eye. Sis, I'm sorry. Silly little brother, it's not your fault. It just means you are too kind and don't realize how vile the methods of bad people can be. So, what do you plan to do? In a dire situation, you can only take a gamble. A gamble? Gamble on what? Betting on women's rivalry. I don't believe a woman with proper values would knowingly be the third party and still act as one. Everyone at Derek's company, colleagues and friends alike, knows full well he has a wife and child. And a woman with distorted values loves nothing more than to engage in female rivalry. The urn is ready, only waiting for you to step in. I bet that the her I've been waiting for from beginning to end will eventually come knocking at my door. I first noticed that belly through the cat's eyes, slightly pushing up her tight little dress. Not big, at most 4 months. If you haven't given birth before, you might just think she's overeaten. But when I saw her face pale and waxy and her occasionally covering her mouth as if about to vomit, I knew this woman was pregnant. You finally arrived. I've been waiting for a long time. I opened the door. Come in. She was initially a bit surprised, then lifted her head and strode into the main hall. After entering, she changed into the slippers that had once been prepared for her mother-in-law at the door. She wandered around the room, examining everything in the house. Was she familiarizing herself with the environment of her future home? I gave a slight, disdainful smile. She heard my faint sniffle and turned around to glare at me. I want you to divorce Derek. Very well. Straightforward and blunt. I like it. Just because you're carrying his child? I pointed at her belly. How did you know I'm pregnant? She took a nervous step forward. Derek told me. I shrugged with both hands, turned around, and sat back on the sofa, continuing to drink my tea. Impossible. Derek said he's already fed up with you. Seeing you every day without washing your face or combing your hair makes him feel disgusted. She followed closely behind me, saying things I didn't care about. Maybe a few months ago I would have cared a lot, but now it doesn't hurt or itch. I blew on the tea and took a sip. Aren't you young girls the biggest fans of binge-watching dramas? Don't you follow them? She must not know how to respond to me, so she could only look at me with furrowed brows. Which cheating man in the TV dramas doesn't coax the young girls like this? Baby, I absolutely hate my yellow-faced wife. Baby, my wife is both fat and pure. I don't even touch her. Baby, I will definitely kick her out and marry you. I put down the teacup and smiled at her. Her breathing gradually grew rapid. You're lying. Derek couldn't have told you. He hasn't even gone home. How could he have said those things to you? He came back a few days ago to beg me. I was bluffing her. You work at the same company as him, right? She didn't answer me. Around 25 years old, liked to wear white shirts and high heels, hair neat and exquisite. How many women in internet companies have the time and energy to dress up like this every day? Who doesn't want to sleep a little longer? So she is the type of person with the most relaxed job, working in administration and at the front desk. Administrative staff run themselves ragged. They would never wear high heels. So she must be the receptionist. You are the receptionist of your company." Her tears slowly overflowed. I guessed right. I quickly recalled the news I had browsed a few days ago. Chung-Wei Group was undergoing massive layoffs. For her to come to me in Dezhou on a Monday, first, she must have been driven to a dead end, and second, she wanted to avoid Derek. "You were laid off." I refilled the teacup with hot water, the warm steam rising slowly. "Did he tell you? Did he say all this to you?" She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "Yeah, right. Otherwise, how would I know where to go?" I lifted my chin. "How many months has it been?" Her shoulders rose and fell. 3. More than 3 months. "You probably don't know yet, but Derek also received a layoff notice." "What?" She instantly stopped crying and looked up at me in horror. "So, is there really true love in cheating?" She was simply attracted by Derek's high salary, hoping to make a leap to the top. I handed her the printed copy of the email I had prepared long ago. Her hands were trembling more and more violently. "I'm really afraid something might go wrong with her here. Fortunately, after more than 3 months, it has reached a stable period." After reading the document, she looked up at me helplessly. "You know, the short video account I manage is quite impressive." She nodded quickly. "Then you should be able to get it too. Right now, everyone in our family depends on me to support them." She slowly sat down. "I can give you some money, but you have to help me record a video." "What video?" She became interested. "A video explaining your common-law marriage with Derek." "This." She hesitated a little. "You can also choose not to record it, but then I will sue Derek in court, and you might be summoned to testify." I agree. She seemed very afraid of going to court. "So, how much can you give me?" 200,000, I said calmly. "Is it possible?" "No, not possible. The current Derek probably can't even give you 20,000. I opened the drawer. "Besides, this house is my premarital property, bought for me by my father." I threw the property deed in front of her, just like Derek threw the divorce papers at me that day. "This is the marriage certificate. Take a good look at the date." This is true. I did not deceive her. Didn't I say? My family values daughters over sons. My father used to say before he passed away, "Stinky little brat, go earn your own money to buy a house." My precious princess must never end up homeless on the streets. So, when I was in college, I already owned my own house. She told the complete story of how she met Derek and how they came to live together. She said that her best friends and neighbors could all testify that she and Derek publicly claimed to be husband and wife and had lived together for a long time. This is a common-law marriage. This video is enough to prove that Derek committed bigamy. I sent the video to my younger brother, then transferred 200,000 to her account. "I still hope you keep this child. After all, he is Daniel's younger brother." She said nothing. The child was her bargaining chip, something she could use to negotiate with Derek again. Derek was also anxious. He had arranged a time with me to meet and sign the agreement. That day, everyone showed up. Derek, urban woman, fishing expert, the third party at the front desk. My side's lineup is somewhat disadvantaged. My silly little brother, my old mother. "You lied to me. Derek was never laid off." As soon as she came in, the third party at the front desk hurriedly confronted me. "That look really does resemble her future mother-in-law." Pah! Shameless liar. My mother-in-law actually spat, utterly disgusting. "Mother-in-law, wipe that mouth you haven't washed in half a year. Don't be so shabby in my house." My mom was slowly pacing around the house, playing with Daniel. "Mom, take Daniel out for a walk." "No problem. Let's go, Daniel. Grandma will take you out for a stroll." With the sound of the door closing, the century negotiation entered the main topic. "Have you made up your mind?" Derek sat proudly on the sofa. "Once you've decided, transfer the money to me. I want half of the house too. I'll sign the agreement as soon as I receive the money." "Transfer what kind of money?" I raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" He sat up straight. "Do you want me to take you to court?" "Derek, you are the child's father. Having a criminal record won't do any good for the child, I said calmly. What crime have I committed? Is cheating considered a crime? He relaxed quite a bit. What if I present evidence proving that you cheated and have a de facto marriage with a third party? I turned on the TV. Wouldn't that mean you've committed bigamy? The TV played a video of the third party at the front desk giving her statement. Derek and his family of 3 instantly turned ashen. The third party at the front desk stood up in panic. She forced me. It was all her forcing me. The surveillance cameras all around my house recorded everything. It's clear evidence that you were being forced. Besides, you also accepted $200,000 from me, and the transfer records are right here. Derek stood up wildly and slapped the mistress at the front desk hard to the ground. Are you an idiot? He shouted angrily. I. The mistress covered her mouth and backed away. Derek, bigamy is a criminal case, while portrait rights are only civil. We exchange, and I'm the one who loses out. Derek gritted his teeth, trembling all over. What do you want to do? Sign this divorce agreement, then get out of my house. I threw the agreement at him. I want to fight for custody of the child. That's impossible. The child is not even 2 years old. Custody can only be granted to the mother. My brother said while playing a game. Besides, what does the money earned from the video account have to do with you? That company is mine. Derek suddenly fell to his knees with a thud. He knelt and crawled closer to me, starting to cry uncontrollably. Wife, I was wrong. Wife, please save me. He clung tightly to my legs. My younger brother stepped forward and kicked him away. I'm warning you. Stay away from my sister. Wife, don't you love me anymore? Wife, I'm begging you. Don't divorce me. From now on I'll listen to everything you say. He wailed like a ghost, tears and snot streaming down. Wife, look at me. Think about what we had. Don't you love me anymore? I was wrong. I actually still love you. Derek? Are you crazy? What are you begging this bitch for? The mother-in-law stepped forward to pull Derek. Derek shook off his mother-in-law's hand. Get lost. It's all your fault. All of you. You want to live in a nice house, buy this and that, eat and drink well. Do you know how much debt I've already racked up outside? The mother-in-law and father-in-law suddenly stood still, stunned. The 2 dear elders stood motionless, like scarecrows. You said what? After a long pause, the mother-in-law slowly spoke. You owe money outside? Yes. 1 million. Oh, a full 1 million. What do you want me to use to pay it back? 1 million. How could it be so much? Grandma shook her head. Then what will I do with my future city life? What am I going to do? She turned her face to look at me in horror, and with a thud, she knelt down as well. Daughter-in-law, my dear daughter-in-law, please save us. For the sake of the time I took care of your child, save us. I looked at everyone in front of me, feeling utterly exhausted. Derek, if you don't hurry up and sign the agreement, then you'll have to wait for the court summons. No, wife. I'm begging you, wife. The 3 of them started to act shamelessly without end. I'll give you 5 minutes to sign the agreement and leave immediately, otherwise I'll call the police. I helplessly turned around, watching Mom and Daniel happily playing downstairs. Naturally, they had no other choice. I knew Derek would cast one last glance at me when he left. But I firmly believed that his gaze held only frustrated resentment, with absolutely no lingering love. Later, Derek was fired, not laid off. The third party at the front desk went to the company to ask him for money, but he was penniless. As a result, the company fired him over reputation issues. Why not? Layoffs require compensation. With the third party causing such a commotion, it probably saved the company over $200,000 in compensation fees. The receptionist's third party did not choose to keep that child. After all, she did not want to be a single mother. So we are different, and we can never be the same. Sis, did you hear? Someone has turned your story into a novel, my younger brother said to me while eating Daniel's children's snacks. Oh, really? I smiled and turned to chat with him. Please thank her for me. Of course I have to thank her, because besides Daniel, there is one thing I cherish most right now. Traffic, I need traffic.